Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draws are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and we're going to head to Ohio, actually pretty close to Canton, Ohio. Football Hall of Fame shrine someplace there. And we're going to visit with Chris Campanelli. And Chris is involved, he actually owns Affiliated Outdoors, and he's a contributor writer to Mass Pursuit TV. That's a mouthful, folks, and it's late in the afternoon, but I'm going to try my best. Anyway, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Bruce. I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm happy to be here. Pumped up to talk some deer hunting and some outdoors.
Well, you betcha. And we got together because you just launched their podcast, Affiliated Outdoors. So, there's thousands of people going to hear the show. So tell them about your show.
Yes. We just actually, as an entire brand, just launched Affiliated Outdoors in December 2017, just before Christmas. Myself and a good buddy of mine, Alex Thompson, who's out of Sandusky, Ohio, kind of put our heads together and decided to take our hunting and outdoor passions to another level. And I've got some media background. That's actually my initial college major was going to be to go for broadcast journalism. I thought I was going to be a sports radio host or a sports journalist, and I kind of burned out on that, and my real passion has always been outdoors and deer hunting. So I said, we got to do something so we can try and take that passion to another level, maybe eventually kind of make it into a career. Like all of us kind of hope to make our career doing what we love. And in the outdoors, that would be, producing some content to follow along with your outdoor adventures. So we said, let's do some articles, let's do a podcast, a little visual element with some YouTube work, and so forth. So, yeah, we launched our podcast around January 1st this year. And it's kind of similar to Bruce's show here on Whitetail Rendezvous. We kind of have people on, industry professionals and guests that we think are going to bring interesting content to the table. And we just kind of throw some questions back and forth, talk some casual deer hunting and other outdoor topics, and just have a good time and try and enlighten people a little bit and kind of further our sport and our passions.
When you talk about Affiliated Outdoors, that's a little different. I'm, interested in finding out, how'd you come up with that name?
Yes. Yeah. Our name actually, that credit goes to my buddy, Alex Thompson. Like I was saying, my partner, we kind of were putting our heads together trying to figure out some names, and we kind of, we're a little disgusted with a lot of the cliched names. Obviously, you guys all know all the big, bad, tough outdoor names that you find on a lot of these shows that are trying to be really, really cool. And we said, let's try something a little different and kind of focus on the fellowship and the connection between the outdoors. Because obviously any media, whether it's sports media or news media, they're connecting you to some bit of information, to some bit of content. And our connection is to the outdoors. So that's kind of what we wanted to do is kind of act as a liaison between the outdoors and the outdoorsmen and women who might be stuck at work or stuck at home or stuck inside doing whatever when it's not deer season. Try and give you a little bit of a slice of what you love to do outdoors and bring it to you on a computer, phone, tablet, wherever it may be. So that's kind of our big thing is connection. That's where we try and focus, our connection to the outdoors.
Thanks for that, Chris. And everybody, if you've never checked out or define rendezvous. That's the coming together. So whitetail rendezvous is a place where whitetail hunters come together. That's pretty how simple ours is, but it's interesting that more and more people want to build that relationship. Yeah, we're going to talk Ford and Chevy and Matthews and Hoyt and all that good stuff. Don't get into broadheads because then everybody gets really wigged out. But having said that, it's all about doing something we love. And at this time in history, literally history, we need to come together. And I'm going to soapbox it a little bit for a second. But, if we don't come together as guys and gals, old and young, and really make our sport exceptional, we're going to keep losing people. Because we got to attract people. And that's one thing that podcasting is doing as a member of POMA, Professional Outdoor Media Association. We're trying to put a front out there that the outdoors is a great place to hang out with. The people are great people to hang out with. The articles you read are great articles. They're going to make you better. The podcasts throughout the whole United States, I don't know how many thousand outdoor podcasts there are now, but we're all trying to do one thing. It's entertain, share information, and then be approachable. Your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah. Bruce, you echoed exactly what our mission statement at Affiliated Outdoors really is. And I know the same thing with a lot of the companies, our buddies over at the team that I work with at Mass Pursuit TV. Everyone in the outdoor industry has kind of come into their senses now. I think for a long time, you had a lot of outdoor shows, especially the big ones that are on the large network shows, and you guys all know, and we're not knocking those guys, and we love those guys. A lot of them are some of my heroes growing up in the outdoor industry, but I feel like a lot of the content out there for the last handful of years in the modern era was kind of a self-serving, product-pushing type of an atmosphere where people kind of abandoned your average Joe outdoorsman, and they kind of got up onto a soapbox, so to speak, and kind of tried to project from the mountaintops, we're the biggest, we're the baddest, we've got this cool sponsor, that cool sponsor. And I think they've alienated a lot of people. And if you ever, have a little bit of time, I believe it was Michael Waddell from Bone Collector had a really good rant over the last year, a Facebook video rant.
It was a rant.
You've probably seen it. I think that
it's worthwhile seeing, folks. It's really worthwhile seeing because Michael he says it really from his heart, and basically he's saying, wait a minute, we're all in this thing together, and it doesn't matter if you kill a 200 bull or a spike, a 200 buck or a spike buck. It really doesn't matter. It's hunting. And then it went on from there.
That's what it went on and on and on from there. But Michael Waddell's he's an outdoor, hero of mine, a real role model of mine growing up. He's probably one of my favorite, like I said. And that's a great video. Like I said, I'm glad you've seen it. That kind of was a point where Alex and I looked at each other and said, this guy's making a lot of sense. And we're feeling it because all of us are consumers of outdoor media. We're consumers of outdoor products. It's our lifestyle. If you're really passionate about it, I know me personally, it's my lifestyle. It's what I live and do more than anything else, really. And when you're part of that community, you can kind of see the faults in it. And that's, like I said, a lot of it has been kind of condescending from the big names in the industry, and not all of them. Obviously, most of them are great people, but I feel like a lot of the average hunters and outdoorsmen kind of feel like, hey, you're supposed to be, serving us, connecting us, and growing the sport. What are we doing when we're competing with each other and trying to knock each other down for this, that, and the other thing? We're supposed to be coming together because there's too many people out there who would love to put an end to hunting if they could with a stroke of a pen. So why are we competing with each other when we're supposed to be connecting with each other? And that's it. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's the basis of what we're doing at Affiliated Outdoors and what we're going to try and do along this entire journey.
Yeah, and folks, we are going to get to tips and techniques and what makes a successful whitetail hunter. But, sometimes when you have the right people together, we're going to talk about these issues because if we're not talking about them, you're not talking about them, then things might not go the way you'd like it. And then you're going to turn around and go, well, what happened there? And I tell people all the time, if you just sit, bitch and complain and say blah, 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 and you don't have a seat at the table, then shame on you. And hey, here's my email address, whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. But I believe in that. If you're not involved in a conservation group, if you're not Whitetails Unlimited, if you're not connected with quality deer management, if you're not going to the local Ducks Unlimited, blah, 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 whatever community, because they need somebody to show up and just move boxes. I mean, get involved in your conservation in your area. No, you don't have to give them $10,000. You don't have to give them $100. You might have to pay $50 to get in. But other than that, go to work because your voice is important. Your efforts are important. I better get off the soapbox or I'm cranked up this afternoon, folks. But that's what I feel. And I've been around here long enough and I get enough life memberships to, buy a new Ford truck. And I mean that seriously. My wife isn't happy about that, but that's just the way it rolls. And I was able to do it and I did it and I don't regret it at all. But, so what? That's no big deal because your $5 is worth as much as my whatever dollars were back in the day. But we got to get involved in our local communities and whatever conservation group you're thinking of, and just do it. Your thoughts on that, Chris?
Oh yeah, bingo. I mean, you're preaching to the choir a little here with me. I'm right in line with you. You're hitting every nail on the head there, Bruce. Hunters are the ultimate conservationists, and a lot of people are taken back by that comment. If you listen to another outdoor hero, Ted Nugent, he always talks about hunters being the ultimate conservationists. And if we sit idly by and kind of let that go by the wayside and let the older generation kind of fade away and this younger generation, and that's kind of what I'm a part of, is a younger generation that I see some issues with trying to carry on the torch here for the outdoorsmen and women. So, it's really an important thing that we band together and we keep passing the tradition down. Like you said, it doesn't have to be a $10,000 donation or even a life membership to your favorite conservation or brand or organization. It could be something as simple as taking that neighbor kid who you see is struggling and just playing video games all day and say, hey, Johnny, come shoot a bow with me over here. Show him how to shoot a bow. Show him how to safely handle a gun. Next thing you know, you might turn a little outdoorsman or woman in for the future, and that's really what it's all about, is passing it down. Because if we don't pass it down, it will eventually fade away, because we can already see, and it's been a prevalent thing for a while now. There's people who would love to see hunting go away. They would love to see our firearms rights go away. So you're nailing it all on the head for me there, Bruce. I appreciate you bringing this up because it's something people do need to hear. It's something we're going to try and promote at Affiliated Outdoors. We've done it a little bit in a lot of our written content thus far. So we're on the exact same page. You got to pay it forward and keep growing the outdoor sports, or we're going to sit by and one day they might not be here.
And the other interesting thing is, there's a generation between myself and Chris, but we have the same heart. We have the same thought about what we're passionate about in the outdoors. And that's so way cool. I don't know if that's the correct word today, but it is for this guy. It's way cool because we're of like mind and we can come together and share our thoughts and hope to steer some thoughts out there in my listener audience.
Yes, absolutely. That's the thing. Every one of us has an outdoor role model that we've looked up to. It might be your granddad who's passed down his old deer rifle to you and taken you out in the field and had those precious moments that we all remember. Or it could, like I said, it could be your neighbor who's a hunter. Maybe no one in your family has ever hunted before, and that guy sparked that passion. And we've all got that person that sparked that passion within us. And that's the thing. It's a generational tradition, and it's something that we need to keep passing down. And at this point in history, more than ever, because there's so much that can sidetrack a young person to keep them out of the outdoors and keep them inside doing things like video games and computer games and all of this different garbage that we've got in our world today. And it's really important that we keep getting on that soapbox and preaching to these people that we need to strengthen the brotherhood and pass it all down. And that's what we're all about.
Let's switch it up and let's talk about your land management skills and share with my listeners just what they really should be looking at from step one. I know everybody knows about food plots. given, and some people can hinge cut correctly, and but you got food, shelter, and water. That's what a whitetail needs. So let's talk about that and share some of your thoughts, Chris.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really my passion, and I'm by no means I'm not a Dr. Grant Woods or anybody like that. My degree's not even in wildlife biology or anything, so take my opinions for what they are. But it is my passion. It's what I love to do. It's what I spend most of my year doing. I do at least some sort of whitetail management or just overall wildlife management, at least every month out of the year, save for the couple of months where I'm really hunting hard, maybe in October and November. But yeah, it's really a passion of mine. And Bruce, you nailed him on the head once again. Food, cover, water. Obviously, a lot of us have heard all of the principles and the pillars of land management. But kind of something I'd like to touch on a little bit more is kind of the underutilization of land management, the failure to recognize land management. With a lot of whitetail hunters, obviously not everybody has the chance to put their hands on a piece of property and manage it. A lot of guys are roughing it on public land, and I have a ton of respect for everyone who does that. But I just feel like land management could be a lot more simple than what it's portrayed as a lot of times. And I really love to engage in passive land management, like letting younger deer walk. That's something that every one of us can do, whether you hunt public, private, or a 30,000 acre ranch somewhere. Can all let young deer walk and kind of selectively harvest our game animals. And that goes for elk, deer, turkey, whatever you're going after. There's ways to do it without spending thousands of dollars and having 3 tractors and a ton of land. You can do this anywhere, and that's kind of what I try to put out on our publications at theaffiliatedoutdoors.com, is that land management is A, for every outdoorsman can practice it, and B, and probably most importantly, that it can benefit all of us and that future generation, because our renewable resources are only going to flourish if we continue to practice good, sound conservation. So definitely a passion of mine. Like you said, food plotting, hinge cutting, trying to kind of architect property the way that that us deer hunters need it to be. And it's just such a rewarding passion to have 365 days a year.
You just mentioned the word. I had a guy on this morning, Casey Theron from Michigan, and he calls it landscape whitetail. So he's landscaping whitetail. He was a landscaper, degree in horticulture, and he sold his landscape business and went full time in the whitetail business. And he calls it landscaping for whitetails. So, and you just mentioned the word architect. And folks, the reason I'm saying is it isn't just about going out, grab the chainsaw and cutting some trees down and hoping it works. It's you have a real plan. And that's where guys like Chris and Casey and my friends, Adam Keith, Matt Dye at Land and Legacy, and there's thousands of others, hundreds of others, John O'Brien, good friend of mine, Grandpa Ray Outdoors. But when you think about having people just put some eyes on your thing, don't have them come out and spend $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,500. Just have them say, hey, can we have a phone call and grab the Google Earth and kind of look at things? And you'd be surprised what somebody with eyes that have done this a whole bunch can help you very quickly. In a half an hour, they can say, hey, here's what I'd recommend. These 3 things. Yeah, they're going to charge you maybe $100. So what? My thinking is it's sure as heck worthwhile to have somebody take a look at that land that's been in your family for 50 years, and you got Bob Stan and Johnny Stan, and you haven't moved the stands in 50 years. They produce bucks, okay, but why do they produce bucks? Where do those bucks come from? Where are they going to? And are there other bucks you're never seeing? All those type of questions are the questions that guys like Chris can help you understand, and find somebody in your neighborhood that really understands it or is growing deer. Dr. Grant Woods, just start reading his stuff. There's plenty of people out there, but you've got to really, want to figure out, okay, why is that? The only time I see a mature buck, we see him every 5 years, and he's over here. Okay, why is that? Where is the rest of the time? Obviously, it's going to be, multiple bucks, but if you're growing one mature buck, there's probably some other good bucks there. I don't know. Chris, your thoughts?
Absolutely. And you made a really good point at the beginning about, just getting someone else's eyes. And it's something that I utilize myself. Like I said, I'm not a wildlife biologist by trade or by schooling or anything like that. I've grown up watching Grant Woods and other people, Mark Drury, a big time role model of mine. These guys are like an encyclopedia, and they share their stuff with us now, generally for free online. You can go access their information, their articles, their shows, and kind of bring yourself up to date and teach yourself. And that's just by experience too. That's how I've done it, by watching these guys and really being an admirer of their work, and then putting my hands on land and getting my hands dirty. But you made a great point about using other people, and it doesn't have to be a so-called land management expert who wants to charge you over $1,000 to come out. Something that's really cool that we do here in my county that I hunt, which is Carroll County, Ohio, if you're familiar with the state, kind of the not really southeast portion, but we've got our soil water conservation district who will actually come out to your property, and I'm sure this is the case in a lot of counties across America. Don't forget that your DNR is a service, a public service. They have wildlife biologists that can come out and assess your property. And our soil and water conservation guys here in Carroll County have actually come out to the property that I hunt and given me tips and drawn up a game plan for us, because we had a really bad disease that diseased some of our pine trees and killed all the pine trees off. So I had them come out for free, totally free. They come out and give you a map and give you everything, and they'll assess the situation. So that's like I try and tell as many people as I can that land management can be for everybody. And it does not have to be, you don't have to become Mark Drury, who's got all these properties and big tractors. That's obviously a lot of our goals to someday be at that high level. But you can do this, it might just be with a chainsaw. It might be with a rake and some of the throw and grow products that are out on the market. It could be with as simple as, just like you said, getting somebody else's eyes out there and saying, hey, there's a pinch or a funnel right here that you're not hunting. Look at all this buck sign around that area. You need to get a stand there, and that could be the deal the deal maker for you next fall.
One thing I'll add, and I realize I've been talking a lot today, is that it's not an overnight thing. It's not instant gratification. It may take you 3 years of working your land before you see your first maybe Mr. Wonderful. But I'm going to say, 130, 140, maybe, or a Pope and Young. And there's nothing wrong with a Pope and Young buck, folks. People say, well, no, 125 is the basis of Pope and Young, simply because, look it up. You can Google that. Find out how many millions of deer there are and how many make Pope and Young. Forget about Boone and Crockett. Just stay with Pope and Young. And I think sometimes we get so wound up, and Michael Waddell talked about this, we get so wound up about the bone, and it isn't a 180 or plus Boone and Crockett buck, then I failed. Wrong, in my opinion. Again, you get my email address, so let me know what you think. But it's truly, you take a kid out and they shoot their first buck, doesn't matter if it's a doe, a spike, a forkhorn, they could care less. And see, that's the joy of the hunt. That's my thought, is that's the joy of the hunt. You see that kid just light up, girl or boy. And the funny thing is, that happens to adults too, never hunted. You take them along and help them along and say, okay, here's the deal. We're going to get up in this double set stand, and here's what's going to happen, and the deer's going to come through, and you're going to shoot them. Well, sometimes it happens that way. And so that person shoots their first doe or buck, and they just light up. And they're 40 years old, folks, because nobody ever showed them just the excitement of that. Your thoughts, Chris?
Yes. Oh, man, you're hitting all the points today, Bruce. You're on fire. I couldn't agree anymore. You see far too many guys, especially with social media. We've got so many keyboard warriors that kind of self-proclaim themselves as big buck killers, and they get on those social media posts, and they're cutting other hunters down and saying, oh, that 140-inch buck, so small, look at mine, and that's fine. We can all strive and compete. We're all competitive people. We're sportsmen. Like I said, a lot of us have grown up playing team sports, and when we're all competitive, but at the end of the day, the trophy's in the eye of the beholder. And since another guy, like I said earlier, I mentioned Ted Nugent. He always talks about trophy sport. Kind of anything is a trophy to Ted Nugent. If you watch his shows and you'll see him with a doe, he's just as happy as he would be with a 180-inch buck. Maybe not quite as happy, but you see what I'm going with that. And the trophy's in the eye of the beholder, and it's also in your circumstances. So, for instance, I can't, around here we're blessed with some pretty big deer. But if I hold out for a 180-inch, 170-inch, 200-inch buck, I might wait a lifetime to harvest that kind of a class animal. Whereas out in Iowa, if you're in the good part of Iowa, you might have several of those harvested every year. It's just you've got to sit back and get away from all the outdoor media and kind of just assess your own situation. If you're hunting public land and you're just looking to fill the freezer, a doe could be the trophy of a lifetime for someone. It could be the difference between having clean protein in your freezer and not having to go get McDonald's for dinner one night. For some people, that's what hunting is about, is harvesting that clean protein. But like I said, when it comes in terms of inches and Pope and Young or Boone and Crockett, whatever your scoring preferences are, I always try and detract from the situation and look at age. Age is the number one thing. And I obviously don't condone where I hunt on the property that we manage. I don't want to shoot a 2.5-year-old 8-pointer. Obviously, I'm looking to let that deer mature. But if that 8-pointer is 140 inches and he's 5.5 years old, you can bet your butt that's going to be the buck that I'd like to harvest. I think we really all have to kind of assess our own personal situations and kind of just put the competition aside, guys, just for a little while, and try and make sure that you're trying to suit your needs and not trying to project yourself into what somebody else believes because they're shooting a 200-inch class deer in one of these big buck belt states in the Midwest. You've got to really just kind of detract from all the hype and just get your own situation and harvest what's best for you.
Hey, let's talk about where you hunt. Now, are you a DIY public land or private land guy, or kind of share with us how the heck your hunting goes?
Yes. I'll probably lose a lot of cool points or a lot of my hunting credentials here, but I have never hunted public land in my life. I've always stuck to private land, and I've got my reasons for that. And obviously, a lot of guys have their reasons for being public land hunters. And I've seen some guys that can really produce results, and I respect the heck out of them for doing it. But here in Ohio, we don't have a ton of public land, but we do have some. I don't really know of any bow-only areas, so I'm just never comfortable going in with other firearm hunters or anything like that. And it's just I don't want to kind of hedge my bets on a public piece of ground. So I've always, stuck to private ground, and particularly my little slice of heaven that I really love is a family farm that's been in my uncle's family for over 100 years here in Carroll County, Ohio. If you're familiar with the Atwood Lake region, that's where we do most of our stuff. It's about, like I said, it's not a big place. It's not 1,000 acres in Iowa, but it's my own slice of heaven. And I just, I love to be down there every weekend in the summer, every weekend now here for shed season, whatever it may be. I love to just be down there, and that's kind of where I focus all my efforts. I don't travel around to hunt. At least at this point, I'd love to someday maybe, but I kind of focus all my attention here and really try and make sure that little piece of property is as good as I can possibly get it. And we've got some really good neighbors who have the same kind of goals and have some larger tracts of property. So we've got a nice little spot down there, and that's basically where I focus 99% of my time.
Now, do you reset your stands every year, or you just, is Chris's stand been there for 10 years?
Yes and no. I'm always kind of game planning for the future. And if you've read a lot of our content over at theaffiliatedoutdoors.com, you'll see that right away. It was in the end of we still have probably a month ago when I launched the site back in December, and in a lot of our early articles, you'll see that I'm writing about planning for next year, looking at snow tracks in the snow, trying to scout for next year. I think you can always learn more and let the whitetails teach you more. So yeah, I move stands almost every year in accordance with my food plot planning strategy and my land management strategy too. So those things go hand in hand for me. But I do move stands. I erect blinds that are permanent blinds. Good friends of ours down at Oak Ridge Hunting Blinds. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them out there. They're kind of a local company here to Ohio, but they build blinds across the country. I have some of their blinds set up, so those are permanent structures where I know I can plant my food plots every year. Those are my best pieces of soil where I can plant to my position. That's something that you'll hear a lot of high-end whitetail hunters talking about, planting to your position. That's kind of what I try to do, but then I also try, like you said, move stands and go to where the deer are active at. But I do have some spots that stay the same year in, year out. But a lot of times I'm trying to move and find that next best spot, especially trying to hunt mature bucks. Obviously, they can throw you some curveballs every year, so it's an ongoing process.
I've been told by a number of different people, mature bucks are different. I call them ghosts, but they're different. How are they different? Because they'll loop the main trail. They won't come along the main trail. They'll just loop it, and they can scent check it, and all different things. And that's why I think in the wintertime is one of the best times to scout if you have snow. If you don't have snow, then you're kind of back to square one. But if you have snow, if you see an odd set of tracks doing something a little different than the other ones, that's the buck, in my opinion, that you want to zero in on. Chris, your thoughts?
Bingo. Yeah. Once again, I couldn't agree anymore. A mature whitetail, okay, and I look at a mature whitetail in two phases. Now, this is something that most people might not realize. I look at a velvet-racked whitetail and a hard-horned whitetail almost as two different species. I mean, they are so different. And if you observe their patterns, if we want, we can probably get into that later in the show. Trail camera strategies. I am a trail camera fanatic. On our 100 acres, I've got about a dozen cameras, which is way overkill. But I try and monitor my deer movement year-round as much as I can, and I really try and study the pictures. I have several files on my computer where I break them down and try and really learn more about the deer. If you watch a velvet-racked buck, he will let you get away with almost anything. I mean, I've got 2 chocolate labs. I can let them run through the fields in the middle of June. I can be out there on the tractor. I can be out there on my four-wheeler. I can be on my gun range shooting my pistol, my rifle, whatever. And that buck is still out in the soybean field in the middle of the night. He's eating soybeans. But I guarantee you, if you so much as, goof up a little on your scent control on a hunt in the middle of November or October, right before the pre-rut especially, or even especially in the late season after that deer has put a pattern on you, if you so much as misstep a little on scent control, on your entry or your exit, a mature buck in hard horns, once he sheds his velvet, and I'm talking from September on, can be the most elusive creature, I think, in North America. They are so different once they shed that velvet from their rack, and I've got proof of it on my trail cameras, and I know a lot of guys that are big-time hunters. They'll tell you the exact same thing. So definitely very, very different creatures when you're coming, and especially mature bucks, like you mentioned, totally different once that buck's eclipsed like 3.5, 2.5, 3.5 years old and gets into that more mature range. Now, if you guys are in on a mature buck story, a crazy mature buck story, you definitely want to check out one that I've done recently. If you look on our website and search The Ballad of Midnight Rider, it's a deer that I have been tussling with for about 3 years, and it is just quintessential big buck patterning, big buck movement techniques, and it shows you just how elusive they can be, all while being really, really patternable at the same time. They can really throw you some curveballs and go nocturnal, which is what this particular buck did. And it's just a crazy deer that I fell in love with over the last couple of years. But yeah, they're totally different once they get to 3 to 4.5, 5.5, and beyond.
One thing I liked what you said is, and I don't know exactly how you said it, but the bucks pattern us, you, me, everybody else. And some people kind of look at that, really? And that's really true, because when you shut your door, even click your door, that's slamming it, just clicking your door at the barn where I park, and I have to walk a quarter mile or so, those deer know that I'm there. I have no idea how they know it. Well, they can hear really well. I do know, how they know it. They see the light go on, see the light go off, they hear the door click, and that's why they have those ears. You ever watch a whitetail's ears? They're kind of like radar dishes, and they really hear well. And they frequencies that we can't hear, all that stuff. But deer will pattern you. So you got to have to say, okay, on this wind, yes, I can hunt the stand, but I'm coming in this way. And that's why the wintertime, I believe, is a great time to cut new approach lanes. And because you're going to approach your stand completely different every time, if you can, depending on the wind. And if you do that consecutively, all of a sudden it's going to make the deer ponder. He might still know you're there, but he's going to think. And the other thing is how you walk to the stand. Observe a whitetail buck, observe a whitetail doe, and see how they walk. Sure as heck isn't how we walk. One, they got 4 legs, we only got 2. But how they lift their feet and slip their feet under the leaves, and they walk 10 feet, stop, check out, munch, whatever. Then they walk again. Why? Because they're not going to Starbucks. They could care less, what's on TV. They're just living. This is their house, and so they're not in a rush. They don't have to go to work. Yeah, they got to go eat, they got to drink, and they got to sleep. That's it. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know who this quote's attributed to. But I've heard Mark Drury say it. I've heard several people say it. We're part-time hunters hunting full-time deer, and that's the truth of the matter. Is you're in their living room. Imagine if you walked into your living room or your bedroom, more or less, which is a mistake that so many guys make, thinking they've got to go get into the thickest cover available, and they go jump right into a big buck's bedroom. Imagine what would happen if you walked in your door and there was a big guy sitting on your bed or your couch and chilling in your house. It would be the same thing for a whitetail when he comes in and sees in my case, a 6'2" hillbilly sitting in a tree stand. So it's common sense, really. If you really spend time around whitetails, you'll see we're part-time hunters hunting full-time deer. And while that next hunt might not be life and death to you, it might just be a pastime. It might just be recreation. It is life and death to a whitetail on a daily basis. You might not be the death during the week. The risk of death might be a coyote. It might be a wolf, a bear, whatever it is. Deer have so many predators out there. But when you're a part-time predator hunting full-time deer, you got to realize that every little minute detail can hurt you. So that's what they do. That's what whitetails are. The ultimate survivalists. They are the ultimate survivalists, I think, out of any game animal. You look at them, they stretch from the northern extents of Canada all the way down through Mexico. What other animal is so keen at adapting and overcoming the various predators? Look at the predators that you've got just in that range alone, from Canada to Mexico here in North America. It's incredible the amount of predators, the human intrusion factor that these whitetails overcome. So yeah, it could be something as small as you leave your stinky boots hanging out wherever they might be, sitting in the back of your truck and collecting all kinds of scent. That one little scent trail could be the difference between you harvesting nothing and you harvesting 150 inch class deer. So it really is. It's a fickle thing, and we are most definitely part-time hunters hunting full-time deer.
Now, Chris, do you keep a journal?
I do. On my cell phone, I'll kind of keep a rough journal. I almost go another step, and I try to keep a journal of trail camera pictures. So I'll kind of chart my hunts on my phone and in the little message part on my iPhone, just because when I get in the stand, I'm probably a total freak on trying to be too quiet. I try and not have any other scent profiles that could be out there. Once I get to the truck, maybe I'll just write down that I hunted, say it's November 7th. And then what I'll try and do is from my 12 different cameras that I've got on the property, I'll try and get a conglomeration of photos in and around that date. Maybe not exactly, say, for instance, on November the 7th, but in and around that date, and kind of observe what's the movement that I saw, and then what's the movement that may be on the south side of the farm that the camera got while I was on the north side. So it's just it's an ongoing thing. Yes, I think a journal, to answer your question, is something that everyone should try and keep in some shape or form, even if it's just through trail cameras or if you've got a good enough memory. There's definitely information to be had there that can make you a much better deer hunter.
Yeah, my memory sucks, so I keep a boat post hunt, and and do it that way because I found that there's trends from year to year to year. Similar type things. You got moon phases, you got barometric pressure, you got the wind direction, you got temperatures, you got all these factors. And then all of a sudden, if you look at that data, all of a sudden it's going to click as you go, wow, I saw $5 that day. Or in those 3 days, I saw $5 and 3 of them were shooters. Why did that happen? Because you sit to stand and that never happens any other time of year. And so, that's the beauty of keeping a journal and keeping it for your place. Not, you go to your phone and say, okay, it's 42 degrees out, the wind's out of the north. Well, it might not be at yours because of ridges. Topography changes up the wind. And you got to think about that because, everybody gets up, oh, which way's the wind coming? I know when I used to duck hunt and goose hunt all the time. Which way's the wind coming? Well, you kind of sort of knew where you're going to be out in the flat prairie, so there wasn't any topographical changes. But you get in the woods, even big trees versus little trees. You mentioned pine trees. All this changes how the wind reacts, and that changes how the deer are going to react to you, the hunter, because they know we're here or there. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. I've got a spot on the farm that I've hunted, and this has been a farm that I've hunted, my entire hunting career since I've started hunting. I have a spot that sits just off of an incredibly high ridge for our area. It's probably one of the highest peaks in the area. Kind of goes down into a bowl, and it's kind of the quintessential Midwest bowl funnel that you would think knock dead, perfect spot. You could definitely kill a booner in there. I've had pictures of big deer in there. Chased one a couple years ago. We called the Kicker 8. It was a huge buck. We chased him for a couple years, and we kept going to that stand. And I would see the wind was out of the north. I would walk into the field right above this pinch. I would check the wind. It would be fine. It would be perfect for that stand. You get down into that stand, and 2 different times I had this particular buck come within bow range but skirt the area. He had a sense. What you don't realize is I come in with my and this is something you guys can do. And maybe like this time of year, February, March, when you're a long way off from deer season, get yourself a smoke bomb at the fireworks store. Try and find a day where the wind's going to be out of that direction that you think is ideal. Go sit in the stand and have your smoke bomb somewhere nearby. Obviously, don't catch the woods on fire if you can, but you would be shocked at how the wind can change due to topographical features, as you were mentioning. See, tongue twister. But it's incredible how the wind can change off of a high peak. Like you said, big, tall trees. If it's early season, when you've got leaves on the trees, the wind might totally deflect a different direction than it does when the leaves are off the trees. So there's so many elements that obviously as human beings who are prone to make mistakes, we can't cross all the T's and dot all the I's. But, the extra effort is what makes the really exceptional whitetail hunters the really exceptional whitetail hunters. So that's the guys that are wind checking stands religiously, that are crazy about their entry and exit. That's the small details that can kind of put bigger deer in the back of your truck.
Yeah, I think thanks for talking about the smoke bomb. Earlier, we were talking about Trent Cole and Blitz TV. He's got some land out there in Ohio, and he was on my show at last year's ATA. And anyway, and he was telling the story, just like you were. He was getting flat busted by a very nice deer, a mature buck, and he'd see him coming and he'd ghost. He'd just leave him. He's going, wait a minute, this isn't right. So what he did in the wintertime, he got up some leaves and everything, and then he lit them on fire and watched the smoke go up. He just watched the smoke go up. And then he did the same thing. So that was the wintertime, no leaves. And then he did the same thing, when there's leaves on the tree. Obviously, he took all the precautions he needed to do, so didn't start the woods on fire. But anyway, right. And he said it was amazing because the smoke would go up and then it would go horizontal. It'd just go completely horizontal. And it was like, are you kidding me? Because you wouldn't think it happened, but he used the visual, and then he realized, okay, I'm going to move my stand here on that wind, and I'm going to put it completely over here on that wind, and that'll work. But if you hadn't done that, taking the extra steps, being really ADD about it, then he would never, had figured out that little secret spot. Now, I don't know, how that worked out for him, but I bet it worked out for him real well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know in our situation, it didn't work out to where we were able to kill that deer, but it let me know I don't need to be spending more time at the spot because, like you mentioned with Trent's situation, our wind was going opposite of what we thought it was going, and it was drifting right up the side of this ridge where there was a big doe bedding area. And that's another important thing that people don't realize a lot of times is, yeah, you're trying to dodge the incredible senses of a mature buck, but how often is a mature buck the first deer that you're going to see on a sit? It's 9.9 times out of 10. The first deer you're going to see is going to be a button buck or a spike, and then there's going to be 5 or 6 does behind that. You've got 5, 6, 7, 8 or more, however many deer you're going to see before you see that shooter. You're going to have to dodge all those eyes, all those ears, all those noses. So that's the thing, is it was alert. I found out from going that extra mile that the does were being spooked first, and that was kind of putting this deer on alert and helping him to skirt us every time. So that's what big whitetails do. They also are experts at observing what might spook the more non-dominant, the younger deer, the does. Well, they're experts at figuring out what they're learning from those deer's mistakes, so to speak.
Folks, whitetails are really smart, so don't feel bad when you have to eat tag soup, because it's okay. It really is okay.
That's right. That's right. I'm in the same situation right now, guys. I didn't kill my target whitetail here. That's the Midnight Rider that I mentioned that I did the story on with a drop tine deer. Neighbor across the street ended up harvesting it the first week of Ohio gun season. So I can tell you, there's a ton of ups and downs in this game when you're managing for specific deer. When you're just managing for more mature deer, you're going to go home with failures 9 times out of 10. It's just like a lot of people. I played baseball for a long time. Baseball is a sport of failure. Hunting is the ultimate sport of failure. You are going to fail 9.9 times out of 10, but we live for that 0.1% of the time where we get that elusive crack, and that's what creates those lifetime memories. That's what really gets you fired up to go back to the stand, and what fuels our passions. So, yeah, definitely, we've all been there, done that, and that goes for everyone. Even those guys you see on TV that are gripping and grinning behind every wet record book whitetail that you think there ever was. Those guys have also ate plenty of tag soup. So we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, well said. At this point in the show, let's talk about tips and techniques and what you do. We already talked about the journal, and let's talk about the biggest misconception of and about scent control.
Oh, absolutely. There are so many about scent control, and I'm a fanatic with scent control. I probably go over the top. And I think a lot of misconceptions arise from people, either A, they don't respect scent control at all. They think it's no big deal. Grandpappy told me years ago, if you just cover your clothes and smoke and get the wind in your face, you're good. There's a lot of those old misnomers and what have you. And then there's a lot of guys that think, I can't even, chew a piece of gum that day that I go hunting. I've got to be perfect. I can't let any scent profile happen at all. And I think it's probably something more like in the middle with scent control. And it never hurts to go that extra mile. But, just stay consistent in the pillars of hunting. So have the wind in your face. Know the wind for your stand, too. There's thermals that can really trick you. There's, as we were saying, topographical features that can really throw you a curveball. But know where your wind's going, know where the deer are coming from, the old basics. But, there are some steps that you can take. Something I've loved. In the last probably 3 or 4 years, I've gone to using a lot of the Scent Crusher products and the ozone stuff, which I've found some solid results from. The sprays, there's one in a million. Go pick your favorite. They all kind of do the same thing. They kind of just hold your scent tight to your body and kind of try and keep it from spilling off and leaving a big scent profile. But everyone can benefit from using that extra effort and making sure that you've got some scent control regimen. So it's important that you have some scent control regimen. Storing your clothes. That's a big part of it. I see a lot of guys will just toss their clothes into the back of the truck, put them back on when they get to the field. And you might have success with that, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to, start to collect some pretty nasty odors if you don't regularly also wash your clothes in some kind of a scent-free detergent. That's another big thing that I'm big on. You don't want to be going out there smelling like Bounty and in a flowery meadow. You want to try and keep as low a scent profile as possible. So, yeah, plenty of misnomers, plenty of misconceptions out there, but I think we're kind of somewhere in the middle for ideal scent control. And once again, it comes down a little bit to just being lucky, and being, hard work and luck kind of meet in the middle once you have that regimen in place, and you just follow those simple pillars of having the wind in your face and doing the right things. So, yeah, scent control's a huge part. I'm probably a little bit anal about it, but I'd rather be a little bit too safe and cautious rather than negligent and get picked off after you work all those hours hanging stands and food plots, and you spent the money on the tag and your bow and your gas and all the things that us hunters pour dollars into. Why go out there smelling like a bag of McDonald's or something and sitting in your tree stand with the wind blowing at your back? You're defeating the purpose. So got to have some form of scent control out there.
When you walk in your stand, do you ever use a drag or use scent, buck or doe scent on the bottom of your boots?
Absolutely, yeah. My dad is actually a really big scent control guy with the drags. I'm not so much. I will in the rut. Now, see, I'm one that believes I almost give the mature whitetail buck almost too much credit. So I think, if you're dragging doe estrus behind you in late September for the opener of a bow season, or if you're dragging it behind you, say in late December or January, I feel like a mature buck might, and I might be totally wrong, but I feel like a mature buck might kind of alert on that, like, why am I smelling doe and estrus? So there are cover scents that are good, and there are cover scents I think might be a little overkill or that are used out of season a little bit. But yeah, if you're in the middle of the rut, by all means, drag an estrus wick behind you. That's always something that can help. I think anytime you can replace a scent that's natural to a deer as opposed to a man-made scent, you're going to be better off, obviously. So, even if you're using it a little out of the proper context and time, you can't go wrong with a drag. And something else that I've tried before and I've kind of had mixed results with is the nose jammer products. Those are actually pretty good. It's like a vanilla scent, and a lot of guys spray the bottom of their boots with it, and the deer, they'll sniff it, and they keep on moving with it. It's like it does something to them. It must jam their nose like the product claims. But you can use a lot of different cover scents. But yeah, drag is something that I have utilized from time to time, but I'm not as religious about it as some people.
I learned from a trapper. I'd never trapped, but he told me some secrets. And they used to use the felt pads. And he said at the right point in time, you have to figure out what the right point in time is. But just put those pads in and then walk in. You don't even have to do a drag. You can just walk into your stand and then hang them, 15 yards away, 20 yards away. So the deer will come up and they'll pick up that scent. So there's a lot of tricks, folks, and nobody has all the answers. That's the other thing I want to kind of close up here is that nobody has all the answers. And Chris, what's one thing, what's your go-to thing when you're hunting that farm down in Ohio as far as trying to close a deal on Mr. Wonderful?
My go-to is always trail cameras. That is my big tool. Like I said, I utilize about a dozen of them. You can't imagine the information once you really look and try and figure out patterns, times, certain deer. You can't even imagine the things that you can learn. If you guys aren't utilizing a trail camera, everyone can afford them now pretty much. I mean, they make them down to $40 or $50 to a camera that'll get you 8 megapixels and get you clear pictures and time stamped and everything. So you can gain that information whether you're hunting a big farm, small farm. I wouldn't really recommend it on public ground, obviously, unless you got a lockbox. But that's a big portion of what I do is trail cameras, and then food plots. Like we mentioned a little bit when we talked land management. That is my next biggest thing for sure. Probably 1 and 1A when it comes to tactics is planning to my position and trying to alter that terrain. Make sure that the deer are kind of in my arena, that the deer are using my arena rather than the opposite way around. So that could mean something as simple as putting a clover plot on a little inside corner of some timber and having your stand set up there and having the deer come to you rather than, like I said, barging in to a bedroom or something. And obviously some people have success with that. But I would say, yeah, the two biggest things that I've utilized are definitely trail cameras and food plots. For the Midwest situation, obviously that can totally differ across the whitetails range. But for me personally, yeah, trail cameras, I live and die by them.
Well, Chris, it's been just a pure pleasure. It's really been fun. We talked a lot about a lot of different things in the outdoor world, obviously whitetail being one of them. But on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America. Thank you for being a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous.
Well, Bruce, I want to really thank you. You were great. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you having us on. I know we're kind of a new company here in the outdoor industry, producing a little bit of that new style media, and we want to make sure that that we reach out with good veterans like you that know what they're doing and talk some deer hunting and kind of spread the good word. So it's been my absolute pleasure to be on the show with you today. I can't thank you enough.
Hey, folks, it's really a privilege to head out to Pennsylvania and connect with Clint Campbell. Now, Clint is a podcaster, just like Whitetail Rendezvous, and he has this podcast named Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting. And he's going to share a lot of truth. And Clint and I had a great session. And what he feels and knows is that you got to stay positive. You got to be in shape. You got to think like a deer. You have to figure out your sits before you get to the stand or the tree and say, I want to use this tree. And then you always ask the question, why? Why are you going to use that tree? And so he breaks it down, and he's got some humor, and he's got some great tips. So sit back and relax and enjoy Clint Campbell from Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.